Well, welcome. So this is Office 365 Productivity Tips, Mayhem in Minneapolis. And this session was done live at the SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities event. And it was myself with Tom. Tom?
Hello.
Greetings. And that was on October 28th, 2017. So to be specific. And
yes.
How I remember that is because that was the fourth SharePoint Saturday in a row that I spoke at. So
you're an animal.
Yeah, I did the 3 SharePoint Saturday events in a row down in South Africa, and then came back and was home for an entire day and a half, and then went straight to Minneapolis for this.
Now, I would have been really impressed had you said that you had done all 4, or was it 5, SharePoint Saturdays that were on that specific day.
Now, that would have been impressive.
That would have been really impressive.
I would say that there was, with the SharePoint Saturday Vienna, which I did a couple weeks later, there were people that were trying to, because there was SharePoint Saturday Oslo happening at the same time. There were people that were trying to figure out how to make it work to go and present in Vienna in the morning and then catch a flight and do a end-of-day session in Oslo. Unfortunately, there were no direct flights between Vienna and Oslo, and they looked into chartering a flight, and it was like $15,000 or $18,000. So yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I can't think of any way to justify that.
No. It would have been fun though, and I think it's been done in the States where people have gone between them. But anyway, so we are recording this after the fact, so we can share out with the rest of the world on all of the goodness that we shared in Twin Cities in Minneapolis. And so just by way of introduction, so my name is Christian Buckley. I'm the founder and CEO of Collab Talk, as you can read on the screen. And I've been in the SharePoint and Office 365 space since 2005. I'm a 7-time SharePoint Office 365, I guess technically Office Servers and Services MVP. But I'm also a big fan of Office and Office 365 productivity solutions. And you can find me in my blog at buckleyplanet.com and on Twitter at buckleyplanet as well. And Tom, over to you.
And I am just a lowly software engineer working at a regular company as a regular employee, doing regular stuff involving SharePoint and Office 365.
And crushing it.
And crushing it. One day I would like to be an MVP, but I'm not there yet. And what I do is, for these particular tips, I end up posting them, and I try to do it about twice a week, out on oneminuteofficemagic.com. So if you want to follow along on a regular basis, either check that out or subscribe to it if you use Feedly and RSS feeds. But I also cross-post to Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and LinkedIn and wherever else that all ends up happening. So you can usually find those tips either out there on the blog, or if you follow me on any of those other things, you'll see links to those tips.
And Tom and I are going to be doing a lot more with social, as well as pushing out links and little kind of social cards around each of the individual tips and point you back to where you can read more, and doing more blogging around these. So I think there's a lot more content that's going to be happening over the coming months around each one of these. But at the very least, we wanted to capture what was shared with the live audience via online, YouTube, Facebook, and elsewhere. So hopefully you find some things that are useful here. And if you've got any suggestions, either to the things that we've shared, I mean, Tom and I would love to hear the stories around the tips that we've shared with you, or if we left something out about those tips, we want to know.
Or if you have a tip that you want to share with me, feel free to go ahead and send it to that email address that's on the screen right now. Don't you dare go back one screen, Christian.
No, that's fine. Hey Tom, I mean, all fair is if there's something on Tom's blog, he goes and blogs about it, I can still steal it and use it as one of my favorite tips. So la-di-da.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. So anyway, so here's the sponsor of the SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities. So the obligatory sponsor slide for those that were there at the event. Well, let's get into the rules of engagement. because we do like to fight fair. Most yeah.
We like to fight.
So the way we structured this is that each of us will take turns. We're back and forth, and so that we take turns going first and second, and that there's 5 rounds total. The rules are there are no duplicates, and so we've gone back and forth on talking about this, and we'll just say there's no duplicates going forward, no duplicates, so that anytime you catch one of these videos, there will always be 10 brand new, as far as our series, brand new tips, hints, and tips that we're sharing, and so that we're not overlapping there. And at the end of each round, we then ask the audience to vote. And so we are keeping track of the leaderboards for this. Who wins by round, how many people, how many total votes at the end. So it's interesting about this. I could be the round winner, and then Tom, but overall gets more votes, and so we kind of split the decision. But then the other rule, of course, is the no hitting below the belt. And like I like to say, is that it's all digital now. So the belt, where the belt is really kind of fluid. It's a digital belt. Depending on need.
And when you're short, that belt can be really, really high.
That's right. I'm really sensitive on this one. I've got to win this one, Tom. Give it to me. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, one of the things you're not seeing in this recording was because we were doing it live, and I was hoping to throw Christian off in his game, which in hindsight didn't work, but it was a whole lot of fun doing it. When he started to go through all these rules of engagement and started to do his intro, I actually hit my iPhone, which started with the rap portion of Eminem's Lose Yourself. And as Christian's standing there looking at me like, what are you doing? I pull out little black eye patches that have Office 365 written on them, put those under my eyes. He thinks I'm done. No, I pull out a headband and stick the black headband on, which actually for my balding head was actually comfortable. I actually liked that one.
Yeah.
And then when he really thought I was done, I actually pulled out a pair of Muay Thai sparring gloves and put those on. And by that time, the Eminem song had really gotten into the beat. And so he's like, fine, have your moment, and I just
kind of stood back, let him do
God,
his thing.
Yeah. I mean, he had no choice at that point. I had the crowd. And, and kind of popped my wrists a couple times and, did the whole loosening up. And then
it's the theme here. It was very befitting of the whole thing we've got for all of our slides. So
it was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed doing that.
It was a lot of fun. And of course, we are tracking this over time. So we are tracking the overall leaderboard just ongoing. And so that will be, part of the occasional hit below the belt might be to reference those leaderboards.
I don't think it's occasional. I think you've done that on a number of occasions.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get started. And so I was up first, and so I'm going through the slides that were all captured afterwards. But so this nice thing about doing this style of recording is Tom and I could just kind of walk through and talk about each one of them.
There you go.
All right. So my first one that I shared was the notation capability in Excel. And so I knew that there was different things like, of course, using the pen and other things within OneNote. I didn't really realize what the possibilities were in Excel. And so you also have the ability to go in there and use a pen, or as I was just doing, just using my finger on my touch screen on my laptop. I've got a Dell Inspiron, whatever that is. It's I love the device though. And so I'm able to go in there, and what's great about this is that I'm sure people are like me, that where you've had a spreadsheet and you've wanted to add a note within that. And there is, yes, you can go in there and attach a note like it's almost a sticky type thing, and then it kind of minimizes and people don't see it. And they don't look at that commentary. And I love and so what I do is I go in and leave my note and in a column. Well, the problem is if you're depending on the complexity of what you're building in Excel, that might change the formatting of that column. And anyway, it's just not convenient. You can just kind of write as you see here, real text. Over that, leave a note for somebody. But what's even cooler than that is that you can do the ink to math and go and again with the pen device or here with my fingers, I just typed in x plus 1 equals y, and you can see that it not only converts that to text, but you can write out math problems and calculations, and it adds that into the cell as text. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't use pen or writing as, you can do it with your mouse if you want to also, but that always looks like you have no coordination or skill whatsoever. But yeah, this is something that I have not taken much advantage of before because my work laptop that I do most of my stuff on that's work related, obviously, that does not have touchscreen capabilities. So I just really haven't migrated to the pen, where my personal laptop is a Surface Book, and I could start using the pen more on that. I just haven't yet. So this was one of those things that I need to look into more and start to migrate it into my own work patterns.
And this is something I know that's a pretty common issue as well. There is I just thought of this too, and this is just separate. It's not part of this this slide of this tip, but you could go get a secondary touch-enabled second screen that is USB enabled and plug that into that other laptop and have a touch screen right next to your regular screen.
That's an interesting thought, because I do have a small USB monitor. In fact, because my computer is so old, when I was in Minneapolis this last week visiting Tamara Bredimus, she had this nice, huge 32-inch monitor. I'm like, sweet, this is going to be really, really great. Except for the fact that that 32-inch monitor only takes HDMI and the DVI, and my computer only does VGA, and it's like, crap.
So how many floppy disks does it take to install things in that old laptop, Tom?
A few. It was funny because we talked about, well, I could go and get a 24-inch monitor that does have VGA. I said, yeah, I'm going to kind of hold out and see if my new upgraded laptop, which is supposed to come any day now, has what I need. And then at that point, I may continue to use her 32-inch monitor when I go back to visit.
That's cool. I'm sure right it's a new purchase. I'm sure it's there. But
I really am up in terms of the 3-year refresh cycle. So I'm sure my new computer that they give me will actually handle, HDMI and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, at that point, I think it's going to give me a little bit more capabilities than I have.
Well, I'm going to pass this over to your slide here, and there you go.
So this particular topic was one that came up when one of my customers had pinged me one day and said that she had inadvertently moved one of her Outlook folders somewhere else. And unfortunately, she had a ton of folders and folders nested within other folders, which were nested within other folders. And she's like, how do I find out where that went without having to go and open up every single folder? Well, my first thought was, well, you could Google and try to find that out yourself. But of course, that's not their job, that's mine. So I went out to Google or Bing and started doing some research to find out if there's any way to expand all these folders at one time. And actually my first pass was like, nah, there really isn't. But then I happened to run across one entry that said, actually there is. And what I found was that going into Outlook, what you can do is you can if you can talk, you can left click on the inbox folder. And then if you hold down the Windows key and the asterisk key on the numeric keypad on your folder, every time you press that combination, it will expand out one level deeper for all your folders. So in this case, what you see on the screen here, the only nested folder I had out there was one that I called renewal tracking. And underneath there, I had a folder called tests that had a few other test folders underneath it. So every time I hit the Windows key, asterisk key on the numeric keypad combination, it kept expanding out one level deeper, one level deeper, one level deeper, which made it really easy for her to get a fully expanded inbox, which she could then go through and say, oh, there's where my folder went, and she can move it back to where she wanted to. I did find occasionally that when I tested this, all it would take is one press of the window key and the asterisk key, and it would expand everything. I have no clue as to why it does that. I'm just happy that we could get at least one level of expansion every time you clicked it. And if you had multiple categories that, or multiple folders that were nested, it was really easy to get everything open. And she was like thrilled to death with that one. So good thing to keep in mind.
Very cool. And no, this is something that's too, when you're going and trying to find like where to go, and it's sometimes it's just helpful to see everything opened up and just quickly navigate into that as well.
Yeah, because this is one of those things that I would have never looked up, because I don't nest folders, not because I think it's evil or anything. I just don't do that. Where for her, that was her entire way of working.
Yeah, I do it, but not that deep. So it's, but it's still, it's one of those good to know.
Yeah.
Well, we did ask the audience and voted. The votes came in of who won the round.
You did.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Tom. All right, Tom, round two.
Round
You're first up.
Okay. So this was a really cool feature that I really wasn't aware of. And that was in Word. And I'll also tell you that this also works in Outlook, because it basically uses the same concept of Word to do this stuff, is you can use Quick Parts Autotext if you have like boilerplate stuff that has to go in a number of documents or things like that. And you can build up a library of these Autotext inserts. So instead of you having to copy and paste from another document or copy and paste from Notepad or things like that, you can save these to the Word template that you have out there and always have those things that you need close at hand. So in order to do that, what you need to do is you need to have whatever the text is that you want to save in this case, because we're going to assume you don't have this. So I've gone ahead and circled this lorem ipsum type stuff, only kitty related. I've copied all that, and I went up to the Insert, Quick Parts, and then clicked on Autotext. And when I clicked on Autotext, it gives me the option to save the selection in the Autotext gallery. So when I click that, and when Christian moves to the next slide, what you end up getting is this dialog box that comes up where you can name the selection that you have out there. So it makes sense when you have to look it back up. You can put it in different galleries. It defaults to Autotext, but that's fine. You could make another gallery if you wanted to. Same thing with categories. So you can categorize the different things that you have, plus give a description if you maybe have a lot of different clauses that you have to choose from, and you want a person to be able to more easily figure out why they'd want to use one versus the other. It also allows you to save it in whatever document that you want to save it in. In this case, since we're doing .m, this is the normal document template if you're just creating a new document. So if you're saving it in the normal.docm document, that means it's going to be available for all new documents that you create, which is a useful thing. And then finally down here where it says Insert Content Only, that will basically just insert the content, but you can also have it set up to where it will insert the content in the same format that it was saved. So you have some different options to play with there. So that's really useful. So then what happens when it comes time to actually use it, I have another blank document down here. And what I did was actually go back on the screen. Yeah, the document here at the bottom. So I had a blank document sitting there, but I really ran out of space. I didn't want to make things so small, so that's why it looks a little funky. I went into Insert, Quick Parts, and Autotext like I did before, and you'll see that I now have, in this case, you'll see the Run in Circles one that I had saved under the general category. And so I could pick from all the different auto text selections that I have. In this case, I clicked on the run in circles. Now we can go to the other screen. And as you will see here, it just went ahead and put everything in there. It actually saved the formatting I had with the bold up at the top, which made it really nice. And at least in my screen, there's like this black line running across under the using auto text and word parts at the very top. But if you're wondering, oh, that's really cool, I like the Ipsum generator with the cat stuff, it's catipsum.com. So you're welcome. I thought that was really one of my favorite generators.
There's a couple, if you actually read it, it's just almost a bit kind of dark and weird. Like the line, cat is love, cat is life, sit on human, slap owner's face at 5 a.m. until human fills food dish.
And I actually took the cat butt references out, so it's not quite as weird as it actually was when it first came out that way. But yeah, this is nice in the fact that it does give you the ability to easily insert text. And again, because it can also be done in email, and I think when we were actually presenting this, somebody who uses repetitive text in a lot of different emails, she was like, oh my God, this changes my life, because she could now create these auto text gallery pieces and automatically have them available to select from in her emails.
Yep.
So it can be a huge deal depending on whether you're Word-oriented or Outlook-oriented. Both of them work.
Well, I was using the example of putting together proposals and making sure that, for example, people are using the right company description.
Exactly.
And so it's great to be able to have those depending on the type of proposal that you're putting out, and having all of that pre-built. So you're not guessing about where it is and it's the same every time. And, it's great to have that.
Yeah.
So jumping over to my tip was the exporting PowerPoint to video. And I know that there was a separate product that allowed you to go in and modify PowerPoint, and Microsoft announced a few weeks back that they're getting rid of that separate product, just building it into the capability within PowerPoint, and in a different way, integrating in a different way. But this is slightly different. So you've created this, your PowerPoints, the animations on all of that, but you want to be able to then share that out. This has some really nice automated capability. So you just go in, and you're actually exporting and saving as a video format. So this isn't going in and just basically creating a recording on top of your presentation with like your face on there. It's actually exporting it, saving as a video, and then adding to what you've created there. So there is this example of the slide deck. So I've gone in and I've actually you can add annotations and other notes and other things, but walk through each of the slides as the content is being shown. And here in this example, I've got my video that's showing up there. What's nice about this though is that you can set up the timing of each of these things, and you can have it as you're just talking, that it automatically it's set that it moves to each slide after a certain amount of time as you're narrating across them, or you could manually navigate through as you're narrating there. And so the example that I always share around this is that you've got all of these presentations that you've given. You lose a lot of the context and the value when you don't have the storytelling that goes with those slides. And so while I know Tom, you and I both do, we share things out to like SlideShare, and we go put things, other content that's out there. However, when you lose that person, I would even argue that sometimes you may not like your hair that day.
Some of us may not like the fact we don't have hair that day.
Right. Yeah, you may not have hair that day, but you might not be wearing a clean headband. That you forgot to put on the fresh, clean one that morning.
Yeah,
Tom.
Let's go with that.
but anyway, having your face up there and stuff, just talking and showing kind of the expression, and as you're telling the stories, and here I am, I'm narrating this and I'm moving my hands around. Seeing that adds a lot of that context, a lot of the value to an otherwise stale, tired presentation. But you give another life to that content, make it much more user-friendly and consumable. And so that's what this export capability now does.
Yeah,
so,
and I agree with you. This is rather cool. And plus, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. The thing that I do that is kind of frowned upon, but it's like my attitude is no live demos, because I've seen too many presentations go off the rails, which is, like, this is an excellent demo, but all of a sudden in the middle of your presentation, you lose internet connectivity or something goes bad, and then you get to sit there and watch the person suffer for the next 15 minutes trying to get things back. So I've always hated where you've got just the thing where you hit the slide that says demo, and then you go to the next part that says end of demo.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I bring it back, and that means nothing to anybody. So I like to put as much information in the actual slide deck, so when they take it back, they've actually got some information, and being able to add that context and commentary to me is huge.
Agreed. So we asked the audience to vote. Tom, who won this round? Boom.
You may have.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. Yeah. All right. So I start off the next one. So it was back. And so what I did was create a flow to follow up on important emails. There's a lot of things that are out there. There's actually someone's got a blog, and I think it's somebody from the product team, that's like a flow of the week. And I get the email reminders about it. I'm subscribed and follow that. And I found 2 or 3 that were really useful. I'm actually in the process of doing something. I've got a third-party project management tool that I'm trying to find. It can't do what I want using if this then that, or IFTTT or Zapier. And I'm seeing if I've got some questions that are out within the Microsoft Tech community about whether it's possible within Flow. And if it's not, to put an actual request into the product team out on user voice around Flow. So I'm getting serious. I want this automated. But anyway, so what this tip is about, is being able to go in and follow up on important emails that you've sent. If you've ever done this where you've marked an email as important and you've sent it out, well, it's fine if people respond to that. I'm one of those people that actually look, if somebody has taken the time to mark it as important, I then consider it and treat it as that. Like they added something to that, which automatically makes me think of Michael Scott from the The Office, where how he marks everything as urgent, urgent 1, urgent 2, urgent 3. Urgent 1 is really urgent. Urgent 2 is like, yeah, you can read it later. Urgent 3, you don't even really need to pay attention to that. But
it's urgent.
Yeah, it is urgent because he figured out nobody else would read his emails anyway. But what this is, the flow is that it's a way of going in and sending you a follow-up. So it's you as the sender, sending a follow-up saying, this person, let's say I sent an important email to Tom, and after 5 days, Tom has not responded to that important email. It then reminds me, the sender, to go follow up with Tom on that important email that he didn't respond to. So and I look at this as being, this is one of those kind of finicky things. If you are in like a project manager, for example, going and attaching and sending something that you want to get that read receipt. I don't know about you, but I always kill those read receipts. I don't acknowledge them. I turn them off.
Exactly.
And that's what most people do. But what's important about this is that it's behind the scenes. So it's passive from the receiver. They don't know that you're doing this. It's more of a reminder for you to go to those. If somebody responds, if Tom sends that email back in a day or two, then it never triggers this flow. Only when and there's the sort of walkthrough of this. It's important at the end of it, meaning that it's timed out. It's marked as, hey, it was never sent back. And so that's an important, the final step in creating that flow. Flow is fantastic because it's so easy to go and set them up and start using and creating these if this, then that, then that scenarios, these simple workflows, or processes. It's Flow and Power Apps are kind of replacing, not so much about workflow as it is like InfoPath kind of capabilities. But this is a great productivity tip, just to make sure that those things which are truly important, that you're not losing them in all of the urgent things that happen on a daily basis. So that was my tip. So I don't know, Tom, I mean, have you gone in and set up any flows, started playing with Flow?
Again, because we are still at the point where we haven't really migrated the important stuff that we need to on Office 365 yet for me to do this. I've been spending more time just supporting what we currently have in our older environment.
Yep.
I haven't had a chance to play with it. But again, I will admit that I was highly impressed with what I saw at Ignite about Flow. Because when it first came out, I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. But to me, it was almost like, okay, you basically replicated if this, then that.
Yeah.
And while that's good, I just really didn't see that it had any bearing whatsoever in terms of what I do with SharePoint Designer, which I use extensively.
Right.
They have put a lot of functionality into Flow, and it's quickly approaching, in my estimation, on par functionality with what you can do in SharePoint Designer, plus everything else that it can do on top of that. So,
and the depth of integration across all the rest of the products. It is. If you've not yet started playing with Flow, I highly recommend that you go in and do that. And kind of the guidance here in the slide is there are so many templates that are out there. Just go take one of the existing flows that are created, do some modifications, see how it works. But it's going to be even more integrated, embedded into Office 365 and the Office suite, that it's important that people become familiar with it.
Yeah, and the thing that I like about Flow is that with a lot of Microsoft products, you're kind of like, okay, at what point do I really commit to them? Because I don't want to commit too early and have it disappear. But if I commit too late, that means Microsoft goes up, nobody's using it, so it dies. And so you kind of got to walk that thin line between at what point do I really start building important stuff on it that I want to keep around, and I hope they don't pull the rug out from underneath me. I think they've reached that point in Flow where it's like Flow ain't going away.
Yep, no, it's not.
Flow is critical now. So that makes me very happy.
Well, passing the torch over, Tom, to your next.
Okay. So I'm not an Excel guru, and
What?
I try to use Excel as little as possible, or I try to get my boss, Sandra Mahan, to do Excel stuff for me if I ever need help. But this was one of the ones where we came into a situation where somebody had a lot of duplicates in their data. And of course, my normal thought was, well, I'll just sort everything and I'll go through and eliminate the duplicates by hand, not understanding that if you go into Table Tools and Design, there's actually a Remove Duplicates option. What a concept. So to demonstrate this, I put together a small little table that had names and counts, just random information. And then I went ahead and clicked on the Table Tools Design, clicked on Remove Duplicates, and then in the next slide, it would come up and say, okay, do you want to just look at duplicates in the name column, or do you want to look at duplicates in both the name and the count column? So it kind of gives you an option to be able to say, what do I want to treat as a duplicate? Is it just the name of the person, counts irrelevant, or do I want to get rid of true duplicate lines across the entire length of the data that you have out there? So in this case, I wanted to delete any duplicates that were complete duplicates in both the name and the count column. So I selected that, clicked OK. And what then happens is it comes up and it tells me, hey, you had 4 duplicate values that were found, and it retained the 6th out there. So this is pretty normal, or pretty trivial, actually. But what was nice is that I had one situation come up where I had a couple of distribution lists or lists of email addresses for a couple of groups I wanted to combine. And I kept thinking, God, I don't want to do this. And I'd ask Sandra, it's like, so how can I go out there and tell whether or not they're in one list but not on the other? And I'm thinking VLOOKUPs, which I don't really understand. And I talked to Sandra, and Sandra's like, well, if we did this, or we could. And I thought, yeah, I did write a tip about that, didn't I? So I just copied the two lists of email addresses, one right after the other one, sorted them, and then did this eliminate duplicate. Boom, I had my answer right there. And I had a unique list of email addresses with no duplicates, and it worked out really nicely. So other than, getting into something trivial like this, it actually did have a good use for me that I fortunately remembered, because I write these tips, just remembered it a little late and had to be prodded to remember that I had written this little tip. So
very cool. It's very, very important when you need to have it. And I've certainly, this is what I don't know if I mentioned this before, Tom. So I used to be an Excel guru. Was the person people would come to. And this was in the early days of Excel. And then they switched over from their proprietary scripting language, their macro language, over to Visual Basic based. And it just threw me off. So I was an expert on the really old version of Excel.
It's funny how we do that.
Yeah. And so then I switched over to a company that was using Quattro Pro, and it just kind of wrecked me. And
well, you could have gone to Lotus 1-2-3, so
yes,
it could have been worse.
Well, and so again, looking at who won this round, Tom, any guesses?
I can guess.
Boom. Boom. All right. Thank you for the votes, people of Minneapolis and surrounding area. All right. So, Tom, over to you.
Yes.
Next one.
Yes, I like this round. This was a good round for me. This was the only good round for me. I'm sorry. So this is something that I just actually think is really awesomely cool.
This is really cool.
Yeah. OneNote is an awesomely cool tool anyway. I think it's like Microsoft's best kept secret. And I remember when I started doing more stuff with Microsoft software as I was moving away from the Lotus Notes community. This OneNote thing, I'm thinking, how come nobody talks about this OneNote thing? This is really freaking cool. And it was just kind of like ignored. And the more I've started to use it, the more it's like, I can't live without this thing now. So one day I'm going through and I read this particular article, and they were talking about something that they call napkin math. And so napkin math was the ability to be able to go into a OneNote document, create a formula, just like you were, typing out, in this case, 24 times with the asterisk 15 times 1.01 equals. And then as soon as you hit the space bar after the equal sign, OneNote actually does the calculation for you. It's like, wow, that's kind of cool. And if you look at the third slide, it's also smart enough to know that if there's a $sign in front of any of those numbers that you're working with, it will make sure that the answer it gives you has a $sign in front of it, with the commas placed in the right position, with the decimal places in the right position. And I'm like, whoa, that is really kind of mind-blowing that you can basically have a calculator in OneNote. If you just have a OneNote, page up there or something, you can have calculations running that you just type in something, hit equal, hit the space bar, and boom, you've got an answer. And you're thinking, okay, that's fine, but these are simple calculations. I could do them with a regular calculator. I could do it somewhere else. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that, no, this is pretty freaking complex. So not only do they support the normal things that I actually took in math classes, but they support all those other things over on the right that I never took in math class, because math class at that point required you to do a presentation in front of the class, and I was terrified of public speaking at the point. Yeah. So I refused to take geometry and calculus and all those things. But yeah, you can get really wild and crazy with your calculations here, and OneNote will just eat it up with no problem whatsoever and move right on. So this right here is a feature of OneNote that you may not need, but I think it is so awesomely cool that you can do it, and that OneNote will actually do these calculations for you, especially something that's complex like this. If you had some sort of a math-ish type question that you had to figure out, this is just like awesome to me.
You know, one of the things we did, it is very cool. This is, you know, you deserve the win on this one, Tom.
Thank you. I was really proud of this one, actually.
So maybe you could answer. I don't remember the conclusion, but remember we were talking whether anybody had a Surface Pro, whether they could handwrite, and whether it would first, if OneNote would convert it to the text, the handwritten to the text, and then do the math. I can't remember what the answer was, whether we saw that it did or didn't do that, the two-step process.
Yeah, I think the answer was it did not.
It'd be so cool if it did that, though. If you're just handwriting, do your math, it's converting it and then doing the calculations.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, the one guy that was trying it out real time as we were talking about that could not get it to work that way. But again, with the way that they're rolling out changes on a regular basis, it wouldn't surprise me if you tried that like 3 months from now, and it did it without any.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, I know people that will sit there and take handwritten notes in OneNote, which is one of the best products in the in the tool belt there. One of my favorites. But in a past, one of my other favorites on side of that is the day when they added the ability within like a meeting invite to attach a shared OneNote for note taking. Like it was just so huge cool when they did that. But the ability to go in there and handwrite, take notes, and then do that, and it then does the calculations. Like it, I think that day is approaching as well. So
yeah, it seems like they're already being able to, like, you can put a picture out there that has text in the picture, and you can say, I want to paste this picture and text in there, but I just want you to copy the text. And it basically goes in, does character recognition, and puts the text on your page.
Yeah.
Like, oh, mind blown.
And just to bridge between two different sessions in another recording, another event where we talked about the Microsoft Translator. How cool would it be if as you're handwriting or typing in within OneNote, it's doing the translation in another language?
Dude, that's like crazy talk.
That would be awesome to see that. I don't know if it does that. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying that. Wouldn't that be cool along these lines?
With all the cylinders that Microsoft is hitting on right now, if they were to come out, middle of next year with that functionality, I would be very
surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that they were able to do it, but I would be shocked that, wow, it works.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we're moving towards Star Trek, the Universal Communicator. I know.
Red shirts for everybody.
Well, here is my my inferior tip, but an important one as well. And I think I think there were a number of people that like just kind of recognized, in the session, like, yeah, this is something like it ran into problems by not following the right process for moving OneNote notebooks to another location. And
to be fair with you, Christian,
yeah.
I will admit this, even though it pains me to do so. These two tips tied with each other. And the lady who was doing the tally as we turned to the board so we couldn't intimidate any voters, she actually had pity on me and gave me the winning vote for mine. But these were like equal to each other.
Well, and I mean, yours is like it's the cool, like the nerd sexy one. This one's like a functional. If you're not following this, you're going to cause problems for yourself.
Exactly.
But both good. And this is why I like this whole format, Tom. Is that you never know, how it's going to be as far as the votes, but where you have head to head, very different but very useful tips.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is again, it's the idea of moving your notebook. You can't just go and grab it in File Explorer and move it to a new location. There could be dependencies out there on that, and this comes from Tony Pohl, who is a great ad here. But it's OneNote is a major part of the way that I work. I mean, I live and breathe in OneNote. It's open all day long for each of my customers, for each project. As I mentioned, the adding to meetings, there's OneNote notebooks all over the place. And when I have a new customer, one of the first things that I do is I add a shared OneNote notebook that I can go and open that up and share meeting notes and other just kind of ads. And it's a quick and easy way to go and work. And I point to those notebooks through Teams as well. And I run my business and my 4 employees using Microsoft Teams, and we access through those notebooks. So if you're wrapping up a project or and you want to move a notebook over there is a process for that, moving them across. And so you do need to go in there and make sure that it's properly moved in using info, settings, properties, and then changing the locations so that you're not breaking any of those links or dependencies that are out there, and people can still find that content. So just something to think about. And of course, in the round, I think based on what Tom and I have been sitting here, the chattiness happening, Tom took that round.
Booyah! Booyah!
Yeah.
My ego was slightly salvaged on this round. So, yeah.
So for round 5, so to start things off, I think round 5, right?
Yeah, this is round 5. This is where I got beat up completely early again.
Well, this is another thing. It's another, because it's another OneNote. I mean, you've got to, when you're going head to head against a OneNote, it's tough because people love OneNote. But this is one where, of course, we use OneNote as this note-taking tool. But did you know that it's this integration between OneNote and the tasks that are captured within Outlook. But even more so, and I'm doing this more and more where I'm taking notes. I'm then changing in OneNote a list of items to to-dos, and I add the little checkbox on those. But I can actually go in and convert a line item or a list of tasks into a calendar reminder. So you can go in within OneNote, select a single or item or a number, an entire list, and then as you can see up in the flag, up in the top right, go and set the flag and notify today, tomorrow, this week. You customize if the specific date and time around that, and then it will add that reminder into your Outlook. It'll add that task, and so that is a great way, because when you're taking notes, furiously taking notes in a larger meeting, and to go and move back and forth and open up other reminders and schedule things, as I do sometimes in Outlook, where I'll schedule as kind of a free and open, but just as a reminder at a certain day and time, and I'll have these meetings that aren't meetings, they're just Outlook scheduled, blocked out time to go complete tasks. You can do this quick and easy directly from the notes within OneNote. And I'm constantly using this capability. So I'd say that maybe not half, but like a third of my Outlook calendar is set up with these different reminders and blocked out time to work on different tasks, so that somebody doesn't come and invite me to a meeting or a phone call when I need to be working on getting certain things done, the actual work. I always lament that, it's like it's 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. I'm finally done with all of my calls, and now I have a full day of actual work to do.
Yeah, that's like there's been more than one occasion where Christian's like, yeah, I'm going to send you the slides. I'm like, great, I'll put it in the same format. And next day it's like, I don't think I missed his email. And
Nope.
That's like, still haven't seen that email. It's like, hey, Christian, where's the template? He goes, it's been open on my computer for like 2 days.
It's sitting there. Best intentions, yeah. Well, I'm actually, I am, like, this is legit. I am in the process of interviewing a couple candidates for an admin. I just need a part-time person to manage my calendar. That's it.
Very much so, yeah.
Keep me on top of things. So, but I'm just at that phase in the growth of my business. But this is a great little tool and tip there. And Tom, over to you.
And once again, because my ego was pretty much shattered coming out of Minneapolis, actually we tied on this one too. But she had pity on you for some unbeknownst reason. It gave you the nod on this one.
I slipped her $20, Tom. Come on.
Dang, I only slipped her 15.
Cash on hand. Yeah, cash flow business.
So this particular tip right here I thought was kind of cool, mainly because I've got a boss who absolutely lives and breathes charts. And you can give him any data, and so long as it's got a chart on it, he is like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Thank you very much. It really doesn't matter what the chart is. Just,
Tom, you know that 78.4% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
And with this tool, you can make them up even faster.
Visual, I know.
And you can do it from all within Word.
Yes.
So what's nice about this is that a lot of times when you're trying to do charts, whether they're real or made up statistics, you start over in Excel and you do everything, and then you do your chart, and then you bring it over into Word, and you're trying to do all this stuff. But if it's a basic chart and basic information that doesn't have any weird calculations, you can actually do this directly in Word. So what you would do here, I've got a blank Word document, and I went into the Insert tab in the ribbon bar and clicked on Chart. And it starts walking you through kind of a wizard on how to add this chart. So on the next slide, what we see is it gives you a list of all the different charts, much like you would see in Excel. And in this particular case, I'm like, yeah, what kind of chart do I want to deal with? I want to deal with a pie chart. I think that'll, stick with the Thanksgiving pie theme here and push that through. So go ahead and select the pie and what type of pie I wanted. And then what it does is it actually gives you an Excel spreadsheet, really minor, puts some basic information out there, which, sales and quarters may not make any sense for whatever you're trying to do. But what you can do is you can go out and change that data to be whatever you want it to be, so it actually matches the kind of data that you have. So as you see here, the chart has the logo of sales at the top and the information at the bottom for what each of the colors are. But in the next slide, what I've done is I've actually changed that to where I was tracking help desk cases. And so I went ahead and changed it to be, this is help desk, and I was tracking quarters because I thought, I kind of like the quarter thing. I'll use that in my demo and let the colors show, what those different areas were. And you'll see down the right-hand side, you can also tune the look and feel of your chart to what you want the title to be, what you want the legend to look like. So again, it's not a full-on Excel chart with, major functionality. I mean, it's not going to replace a Power BI if that's what you're looking for. But if you just want to throw something together really quickly to illustrate a point without having to have multiple Excel and Word and all these other tools open at the same time, you can get this kind of charting capability from within Word, not have to leave your actual Word document that you're working with, and everything will be right there for you, which I thought was kind of cool.
It is very cool because remember the old days where it was just like the graphic, and so you're stuck with it. You would have to recreate in Excel to go and do that.
Yeah, I mean, basically you had a picture of the chart, right, and that was it. Where here, you've actually got the embedded chart in your Word document.
Yep. So
if you needed to double click on it and open it back up, it would pop that spreadsheet again, make your changes, save it again, and poof, you're off and ready to go.
That's why I was the Excel, expert way back in the day, is because a lot of what I was doing as a business analyst and technical writer, I was building out these massive reports, and I had automated the creation through various macros of different charts and things. And it's, And so that was back in the old day. Tom, I was going to say one thing is I had considered before we started here at the beginning of going in and modifying this slide and creating a quick pie chart of how many rounds had been won during this.
Oh, God, you were evil.
It would have been hilarious. And who's to say I might not still do it in my post edit, but
actually I would have laughed. That's the nice thing about it too.
Yeah, but anyway, but it's, as we said, I mean, I do love this functionality inside of Word, and it just talk about, saving time and productivity and having that, the deeper and deeper integration within the Office suite is so incredible. And hey, look, let's be honest. It's one of the reasons why Microsoft Office still dominates after, we could legitimately say now, decades.
Really?
Because of those kinds of integrations. But at the end of the day, what's important here is overall, won the round. Sorry, Tom. And then, of course, just to kick you while you're down here is to then share the overall stats with the vote counts there to see that it was, 4 rounds to 1. And as of this event, also the leaderboard, and I'll be updating that as well, is that I'm winning in the overall vote count. And also and so we were, at the time of this, the rounds, but we were tied 1-1 as overall events. So yeah.
I'm surprised you were able to reach down that low to go below the belt on me.
The digital belt. Sometimes the floor,
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you just hit the floor, did some weird kung fu type move, and punched me, and I just collapsed. I would crumble. What can I say?
Well, thanks for watching and participating. Tom, as always, it's always a lot of fun hanging out with you in person or digitally.
Love these.
And maybe you should think about those digital suspenders so the belt doesn't slip. Just hold it in place.
I pretty much rotund-wise, I don't need belt or suspenders. The pants are pretty well done.
Jumpsuits.
There you go. A zoot suit. I like that. We can make below the belt right above my chest. I like that idea.
Well, for those that want to get in touch with us, again, you can find me on Twitter at Buckley Planet. If you have my company, collabtalk.com, you can find me. But, of course, my blog, buckleyplanet.com. I've been 15 years I've had that blog, and it's still going. Wow. Yeah. But, Tom, and how can people get in touch with you?
If you ever go out and just type in Duffbert on Google, I own that name. That was funny because it kind of was given to me back in the day when Dilbert was, huge.
Riding high.
And instead of Dilbert and Catbert and Ratbert, there was Duffbert. And I'm like, I don't like Duffbert. And they still call me that. And finally I thought,
embrace it.
Forget this. Let's just go ahead and go with it and market it. And now it's just my identity. So you can always find me, Duffbert, out on Twitter, or you can go to my 1 Minute Office Magic blog, which has all these tips that I try to publish twice a week. And so you can get that information if you follow me on Facebook or Google Plus or LinkedIn or Twitter. I cross-post whenever I do post out there on 1 Minute Office Magic. I cross-post to all those other sources too. So eventually all roads lead back to 1 Minute Office Magic when it comes to these tips.
And I would highly recommend if you have anything to add, as we said at the beginning, please go and send them to myself or to Tom. And Tom, do you have a form yet set up on your site to submit ideas?
God, that would be real work.
I mean, because that would be just fantastic. Make it even easier for people to go. But I mean, look, our emails are everywhere. But you can just go to 1minuteofficemagic.com and certainly an email Tom and we'll get to them. And I'll just go in and raid his website every time I need some new ideas.
Yeah, I was going to say this we bit. Who's this we you talk about?
I'll go and pick and choose the ones I'm personally interested in from wherever they come from. But as long as they're not duplicated, it's free and it's fair game.
I've got a feeling I'm going to be hanging out on Planet Buckley a little bit more often.
Planet Buckley, yeah. And I would say that too. Mine, the Buckley Planet, which is a really long Twitter handle to have that out there these days, but I guess not. So it's not so much of an issue now that we're at double the characters.
There you go.
But mine was, I was mocking my brother-in-law, and he had a website called Fisher Planet, and just as a joke in the late 90s, I went and created Buckley Planet, was poking fun at him, and it just stuck. So anyway, well, thanks a lot, Tom.
Sounds great. As always, a lot of fun, and I enjoy our interaction. And I really enjoy the fact, too, and we kind of discovered this by accident, and that is discussing the tips with each other afterwards. I think we almost get a little bit more out of that than we do the actual presentation of the tips themselves.
Yeah, no, hey, look, we're doing this for selfish purposes because we also want the tips. So it's great to learn something and to be sharing something at the same time. So,
and
Tom, thanks again for your time. We'll see you at the next one.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.